Have you ever looked at someone's life from the outside and thought, they have it all? The perfect relationship. The love that seems unbreakable. The smiles that never fade. Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton were that couple. The kind of love story we all dreamed about. A rock star and a country singer crossing paths in the whirlwind of fame. Their chemistry was undeniable, their connection electric, and their bond seemed destined for forever. It was almost too good to be true. The world watched with bated breath as their romance bloomed under the bright lights of Hollywood and country music. We saw them share laughs, raise children, and even harmonize together on stage. They seemed like the epitome of a Hollywood fairy tale. A love so perfect it made us believe that maybe, just maybe, love could be this easy. But what happens when the picture-perfect romance begins to crack? When the story isn't as flawless as it seems? Is there more to their relationship than the red carpet smiles and sweet serenades? And when everything seems so perfect, why do we sometimes find ourselves asking, is it too good to be true? It started as a spark, a moment of connection that none of us expected. Gwen Stefani, the fearless California icon, and Blake Shelton, the down-to-earth country star, came together in a way that no one saw coming. Their relationship wasn't just about fame or the glamour of the entertainment world. It was something real, born out of shared pain and the healing that followed. It was two hearts coming together, broken and bruised, and yet somehow finding a way to piece themselves back together. For Gwen, it was a chance at new beginnings after years of heartbreak and betrayal in her marriage to Gavin Rossdale. For Blake, it was a glimmer of hope after the destruction of his own marriage to Miranda Lambert. In each other, they found not just love, but a safe haven from the storms they'd weathered in the past. Their bond wasn't just about being the next big thing, it was something deeper, something that resonated with their fans on a level that transcended the music industry. It was the kind of love that made us believe that no matter how broken we were, we could find someone who would make us whole again. They blended their families, raised children together, and showed the world that second chances at love weren't just a fairy tale, they were possible. But as we cheered for them, something shifted. What happens when the love you've built your life around begins to feel less like the fairy tale and more like a puzzle with missing pieces? Can love truly survive when life demands more than we are able to give? And if the spark fades, can we rekindle it? Or is it already too late? At first, their differences were exciting, even charming. Gwen, the California dreamer with her rock star energy and glittering ambition. Blake, the quiet country soul, grounded in the simplicity of Oklahoma, where the land and the slow rhythm of life were all he needed. Together, they balanced each other out, creating a life that seemed full of harmony. But as the years went by, those differences began to weigh heavily. What once felt like a perfect blend of opposites soon started to feel more like a tug-of-war. Gwen thrived in the fast-paced world of Los Angeles, always chasing the next big thing. Her career, her family, her life constantly in motion. Blake, on the other hand, was seeking something stiller, more peaceful. The fame, the parties, the endless whirlwind of city life, it began to drain him. The space between them, once a shared adventure, became a silent distance, one they didn't know how to cross. The love was still there, but the dynamic was changing. Was it just the pressure of life? Or was it something deeper? It's often said that opposites attract. But what happens when the magnetism begins to fade? And what once united you now divides you? In the quiet moments when the cameras were off and the music faded into the background, Gwen and Blake were left with a question they didn't know how to answer. How do you bridge a gap that keeps growing without you even realizing it? And as time passed, the answers grew more elusive, leaving both wondering if they could really make it work. Love may seem like a fresh start, but it's never as clean as we hope. When Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton came together, they weren't just two individuals in search of a fresh beginning. They brought with them a history of heartache, betrayal, and lessons that weren't fully healed. They carried with them the weight of past relationships. Each scar a reminder of how love can break, no matter how strong we are. For Gwen, the pain of her marriage to Gavin Rossdale was still fresh. The public collapse, the whispers of infidelity, The feeling of being blindsided by the person she thought she'd grow old with. She had endured betrayal at the most intimate level, and that kind of hurt doesn't disappear overnight. Blake, too, was nursing wounds from his divorce from Miranda Lambert. While he may have seemed like the strong, resilient country star, inside, he was still healing. Together, they found solace in each other's shared pain. They understood the scars of a broken heart, and they gave each other the space to heal. But the truth is, no matter how much we want to move forward, the past always finds a way to catch up with us. The ghosts of old relationships linger in ways we don't expect. They affect how we love, how we trust, and how we show up for the person we're with. So, what happens when the past you've tried to leave behind starts to seep into your present? Can you ever really outrun the ghosts of yesterday, or do they inevitably cast shadows over the love you've built? As Gwen and Blake would soon realize, some things, no matter how hard we try, can't be outrun. The past doesn't let go so easily. The end doesn't always come in a dramatic blaze. Sometimes it's not the big, explosive moments that define the shift. It's the quiet unraveling, the slow fade of something once bright and unshakable. For Gwen and Blake, their love didn't end in a scandalous blow-up or public confrontation. It was a subtle erosion, a slow drift that neither of them could ignore, even if they didn't want to face it. The signs were there, creeping in unnoticed at first. The moments of silence that grew longer, the conversations that felt more like obligations than heartfelt exchanges. They were still together, but it didn't feel the same. What had once been an unspoken understanding between them, a sense of balance and connection, began to shift. Blake sought peace, quiet, and the solace of his Oklahoma ranch, while Gwen's life was pulsing with the ever-present energy of Los Angeles, her career continuing to demand more and more of her time and attention. Their differences, once charming and complementary, now became the very things that kept them apart. Gwen couldn't slow down, and Blake didn't want to speed up. They had each chosen their path, but those paths were no longer aligned. So, what happens when the very things that brought you together begin to pull you apart? When the space that once held you close now feels like a chasm you can't cross? It wasn't one argument or a single moment of realization. It was a collection of quiet moments, each one pushing them further into separate corners of their lives. The love was still there, but it couldn't fill the growing distance between them. There comes a point in every relationship when we can no longer deny what's been simmering beneath the surface. For Gwen and Blake, it wasn't about a single moment of conflict, but about the slow buildup of unmet needs and unspoken truths. One fateful moment became the tipping point, when Gwen, already scarred by past betrayals, needed Blake's protection, his unwavering loyalty. But when the moment arrived, Blake didn't give her what she needed. Instead of standing firm, defending her from the ghosts of his past, he brushed it off, almost as though it didn't matter. For Gwen, this wasn't just a minor misstep. It was a violation of trust, a reminder of the betrayal she had already lived through with Gavin Rossdale. She needed Blake to show up for her in the same way she had always shown up for him. The moment passed, but the wound remained. Blake, meanwhile, didn't understand why Gwen was so upset. To him, it wasn't a big deal. Miranda's messages were just her fiery personality showing through. He saw it as nothing more than an emotional outburst from an ex. But Gwen's reaction was different. It wasn't just about the texts. It was about feeling unheard, unprotected, and left to handle the past alone. What happens when you realize that, despite everything, the one person you thought you could count on isn't the person you thought they were? Can love survive when trust begins to fray at the edges, and when the people we love most don't show up in the way we need them to? Gwen felt that cold reality, and it wasn't something she could simply ignore. The question became, could she really move forward with someone who wouldn't defend her, even when it mattered most? We all carry baggage, and it's part of being human. But some of us carry ghosts. For Gwen and Blake, those ghosts were the remnants of their past relationships, their previous heartbreaks that never quite left, even when they tried to move forward. When you've been hurt deeply, the scars stay. They affect the way you love, the way you trust, and the way you approach your future. You might think you've healed, but sometimes the past quietly resurfaces when you least expect it. For Gwen, the breakdown of her marriage to Gavin Rossdale wasn't just a loss of love. It was a public betrayal, a humiliation that followed her wherever she went. The constant whispers, the tabloid rumors, the feeling of being judged, that kind of pain doesn't disappear. Even in her new relationship with Blake, she found herself haunted by that same old fear, that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't worth fighting for. Blake, too, was carrying his own baggage. His divorce from Miranda Lambert had divided fans and left him questioning himself. As much as he tried to embrace the love he found with Gwen, the memories of his past mistakes, the hurt from the end of his marriage, lingered. Every attempt to move forward was shadowed by the ghosts of what had come before. These ghosts didn't just affect them individually, they affected their relationship. They both carried pieces of their past that, no matter how hard they tried, couldn't be fully left behind. And as much as they loved each other, the weight of these pasts began to shape their present, influencing how they interacted, how they trusted, and how they navigated their love. So, when you're in a relationship, how do you move forward if the past keeps showing up? Can you truly heal? Or do the ghosts we carry continue to haunt us, even in our happiest moments? In a world where every detail of your life is picked apart by the public, it's hard to truly be yourself. Gwen and Blake didn't just have to contend with the ups and downs of their relationship, they had to do it under the unforgiving spotlight of fame. Every smile, every argument, every quiet moment became a spectacle for the world to watch and judge. In the early days, their love felt like a breath of fresh air, a fairy tale romance that people adored. But as the years passed, the pressure began to build. When you're constantly in the public eye, every misstep becomes a headline, every disagreement a scandal. Gwen and Blake couldn't have a private moment without it being dissected. What happens when your relationship becomes a brand? When the expectation isn't just love, but perfection. And when you feel the weight of every misjudgment, every little thing that doesn't align with the image you've built? The strain wasn't just emotional. It was a constant, gnawing pressure, a reminder that nothing in Hollywood is ever truly private. The more the world watched, the more their relationship became defined by the outside noise. And the hardest part? Neither Gwen nor Blake could escape it. No matter how much they tried to keep things real, the public's perception began to overshadow their reality. In the end, even the most genuine love can struggle under the weight of constant scrutiny. When your relationship isn't just yours but everyone else's too, how do you keep the magic alive? Can love flourish when the world is watching, waiting for the first crack to appear? At first, their differences felt like the perfect balance. Gwen, the California girl full of energy and change, and Blake, the grounded, easygoing country boy from Oklahoma. Each one brought something the other needed. Gwen introduced Blake to a world of glamour, creativity, and excitement, while Blake grounded Gwen in simplicity, peace, and a quieter way of life. They were two worlds colliding, yet somehow it worked. But over time, that collision turned into a struggle. Gwen's life was built on reinvention, on constantly evolving and chasing the next big thing. Every day brought new challenges, new opportunities, and a constant need to move forward. Blake, on the other hand, found his strength in stability. He was happiest when he was back home, on his ranch, where everything was familiar and unchanging. He longed for the quiet, the routine, and the life that didn't require constant transformation. What happens when the very differences that once drew you together now begin to feel like barriers? The pull of two opposing forces can be strong, but over time, that force becomes exhausting. Gwen couldn't stop moving, couldn't stop evolving, and Blake couldn't find peace in the chaos of Hollywood. What had once felt like a beautiful contrast now became a divide too wide to bridge. Could love survive when the two of you are pulled in such different directions? Can you remain together when everything that once made you whole now feels like a distance too great to cross? It's a strange thing when love begins to fade. Not in a dramatic, explosive way, but in a subtle, quiet retreat. For Gwen and Blake, their story didn't end with a public fight or shocking scandal. It ended in the slow realization that their lives were no longer aligned, not in a way that could be fixed with a conversation or a grand gesture. It was an unraveling that didn't happen overnight but built up over time, slowly and quietly, until there was nothing left to save. They were still in love, but it wasn't enough anymore. They had tried to make it work, blending their worlds, blending their families, even as their differences grew. But somewhere along the way, they both knew that it wasn't the same anymore. They had outgrown the version of themselves that had brought them together. The magic they had once shared had transformed into something else, something unspoken, something that they both felt but couldn't explain. This wasn't a relationship that ended in harsh words or doors slammed in anger. It was the kind of ending that comes when two people simply realize that they can no longer walk the same path. There was no villain here, no one to blame, just the understanding that sometimes even the deepest love can't survive the weight of time and change. So, what do you do when the love you fought for, the love you thought would last forever, begins to quietly fade? Can you accept the silence that comes with an ending, or do you keep fighting for something that no longer fits? And when the love is real, but the timing is wrong, is it still worth it? As the dust settles, the truth remains. Gwen and Blake's love was real. It wasn't a fairy tale, nor was it perfect, but it was authentic. It was raw, messy, and beautiful in its own way. Their journey together was filled with genuine moments of connection, shared laughter, and tender memories that they will both carry with them for the rest of their lives. The love they shared healed wounds from their pasts, built a blended family, and inspired millions. But here's the thing about real love. It doesn't always last forever. Sometimes love is a chapter, a beautiful, life-changing chapter, but not the entire story. And that's okay. It's not a failure. It's a lesson, a reminder that love isn't always meant to stand the test of time. Sometimes love is about healing, about growing, and about learning what we need to let go of. It's about finding peace in the moments we had, rather than holding on to the idea of forever. Gwen and Blake didn't fail. They loved with everything they had, even when it wasn't enough to overcome the obstacles they faced. They taught us that love doesn't need to be everlasting to be profound. It just needs to be real, and theirs was real. In the end, their story isn't one of failure. It's one of growth. Love may not have conquered everything, but it gave them both something that will stay with them forever. The understanding that love, even in its impermanence, can transform us in ways we never expected. As the final chords of Gwen and Blake's relationship fade into the background, one truth remains. Their love story is not just a tale of heartbreak, it's a story of resilience. Love isn't always about having a picture-perfect relationship. Sometimes it's about how we rise after the fall. It's about the strength we find in letting go, the courage it takes to move forward even when we're unsure of what's ahead. Through their ups and downs, Gwen and Blake showed us that even the most challenging moments can lead to growth. They both came into the relationship with scars, but they also left it with lessons that only come from truly experiencing love, both its beauty and its impermanence. Resilience isn't about avoiding pain, it's about how we navigate it. Their story reminds us that we don't have to hold on to love forever to understand its power. The lessons we learn, the healing that takes place, and the strength we gain, these are the true gifts of love. Gwen and Blake didn't fail because their relationship didn't last. They succeeded because they loved openly, deeply, and without reservation. And when it was time to move on, they did so with grace. If there's anything to take away from their story, it's this. Resilience is born from the ability to accept change, to let go of what no longer serves us, and to trust that new beginnings are possible. Love, like life, is a journey, one that's full of twists and turns but always moving forward. And even when a chapter ends, the next one is waiting, full of new possibilities. Gwen and Blake's journey together may have come to an end, but your story, your journey, is far from finished. The lessons we take from their experience aren't just about love. They're about life, resilience, and the power of transformation. Just because one chapter ends doesn't mean the book is over. In fact, it might be the most powerful chapter yet. Their relationship teaches us that it's okay to love deeply, to fall hard, and to let go when it's time. It's about embracing the beauty of the journey, knowing that even when things don't go as planned, we're still growing, still evolving. Every relationship, every experience is a part of our story. Whether it's love, heartbreak, success, or failure, each moment shapes us into who we are becoming. Gwen and Blake's story wasn't about a fairy tale ending, and neither is yours. Life isn't about holding on to the idea of perfection. It's about accepting the imperfections, learning from them, and moving forward with a stronger sense of who you are. Your next chapter, whatever it may bring, holds new possibilities, new opportunities for love, growth, and transformation. So, don't be afraid to write your own story. Embrace the lessons from the past, but don't let them define you. The best chapters are ahead, waiting for you to step into them. You have the power to shape your journey, to turn each page with hope, courage, and the knowledge that you are resilient enough to face whatever comes next. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning.